Hi, this is Father Al Seski. I'm the pastor of St. Joan of Arc Catholic Church in Hershey, Pennsylvania, and I'm bringing you another episode of the Barefoot Confessor. Last time we made Easter bread, and I'm going to continue the Easter theme by making for you a lamb cake. And the most important thing about making a lamb cake at Easter is you do need the lamb mold. The cake itself is very simple, the icing is easy, the decorations are easy, but you do need to have this lamb mold. And you can buy them new aluminum ones in the store. This is a nice old cast iron one that I found in a yard sale and cleaned it up, and it works great. This is the quintessential Easter dessert. I can't imagine making a lamb cake in the middle of the summer or at Christmas time. And so this is the perfect dessert for your Easter table. The first thing that we are going to do is to prepare the mold. And so we have a front side and a back side of the mold. And what is absolutely of utmost importance is greasing and flouring the mold very, very well. The other day when I was making the Easter bread, I told you I like to use the cooking spray, but in this case you really need to grease and flour the bowl. And I'm going to really be putting in, this is melted butter, so I'm going to be going all around this mold, this cast iron mold, and really greasing it up. I'm going to put an awful lot of butter, melted butter, in the bowl, because the whole point of this is you want this cake to be able to come out. And I'm going to do the back part of the mold. So just brush it all around, make sure that it's in there, all the nooks and crannies, especially in the ears and the nose part, because those are the ones that have a tendency to break off when you try to unmold it. So go back over it again once or twice, and you will have a perfectly greased, and then I'm going to flour it and pound it around and get the flour in it. I'll do that before I put it in the oven. So I'm just going to set these aside for now. You'll see how nicely greased these are. And I'm going to show you how to make the cake. I like to use a pound cake recipe for this lamb cake because of the fact that it's more dense, the crumb is a little tighter, and you have a tendency for it to unmold very beautifully. What happens is if you're using too much of a light and airy cake, the neck won't hold up, the ears will fall off, and so I like to use a good old-fashioned pound cake recipe, and it will come out perfectly. So the first thing we're going to do to make the pound cake, and you can more or less use any recipe you like as far as a good pound cake or a cake that you know and love that has a lot of density to it and to solidity to it. So we're just going to start by doing as we do with most any cake, is you're going to take 2 sticks of butter and you're going to start creaming them in the mixer. You know, I have a little trick on how to get your butter soft without it melting, and I forgot to take this out, and so it was rather hard, and you want it to be soft as you start to cream it. I just take it and put it down in the microwave for around 5 seconds, 5 to 8 seconds at a time, and you turn the microwave on. After 5 seconds, turn it over, flip it all the way over, another 5 seconds, other side 5 seconds, another side 5 seconds, and within 20 seconds you have perfectly soft butter. So I'm just going to start creaming this a little bit. So that's nice and soft. And to that, I am going to add 2 cups of sugar. And that's going to start creaming, and you want it to get light and fluffy and a real light yellow. I'm just going to let that go a little bit. I'm eventually going to add 3 eggs to it. But while I get this creaming, I'm going to zest an orange and get the juice from one orange. And this is going to be the flavoring for this pound cake. It's not going to be an overpowering lemon taste, but rather it's just going to lightly flavor it, and you'll see the zest. It will give a great smell. It's nice and springy as we celebrate this Easter season and this great feast of Easter for us Christians. So once again, just going to use this rasp to zest this lemon. You get all of the bright yellow. Don't get too much of the white. Turn that up a little bit. And then I'm just going to get the juice of this one lemon, squeeze it out a little bit, roll it on the table. If I keep on doing these shows, I'm going to get a counter height table and one that's much more solid than this. So I'm just going to squeeze, let the seeds go into my hands, not between my fingers, but let the juice run through my fingers. And you're just going to get maybe two tablespoons of juice from this. And the zest of one orange. So I'm going to put this aside, wash my hands a little bit. I'm going to scrape this down. It's nice and light and real pale yellow. Nicely incorporated. And then as it is mixing, I'm going to add 3 eggs. So these are 3 extra large eggs. Showed you that, and I know they say probably don't do this right into the bowl, but I seem to have, you can crack them into another dish. It's not going to be a big deal. But I just have a tendency to do it this way. So I'm going to let that beat up very nicely. Already it's getting light and fluffy with the inclusion of the eggs. I'm going to scrape this down. Some recipes call for just egg whites if you want a really pure white cake. But I like the yolks in it. I don't mind the yellow of the cake. And also too, you could add just about any flavoring you like. I'm using the lemon. You could do a chocolate pound cake. A little black sheep. You could do almond flavored. You could use food coloring, whatever you want, whatever you think you want to have for your Easter table. Okay, so I have that nicely creamed together, the sugar and the butter. I'm just going to add a little vanilla. I always like to add the vanilla to just about anything I like to cook because I love that, and I think it adds something. And vanilla and lemon go together beautifully. This time I don't think it's a big deal. It's going to look like it's going to curdle, and it will, but it's not going to hurt it. So I'm going to add the lemon and zest and the juice, incorporate that, and that's fine. So I have 3 cups of all-purpose flour. I'm going to add a half a teaspoon of salt, kosher salt, a half a teaspoon of baking powder, and a half a teaspoon of baking soda. I'm going to mix these all together, incorporate all this together well. And what we're going to do is we are going to mix this between the flour and 1 cup of milk. And a lot of recipes call for buttermilk, but because we're using the lemon and the milk together, it's going to give it that acidity level, which will work with the baking soda, and that will help be part of the leavening process. So I'm going to get the cup of milk, and I'll be right with you. So I have 1 cup of milk and 3 cups of flour, and I'm going to alternate them in the mixture, and I'm going to let it all mix very well. And I know that I probably have heard it 1,000 times. You start with the milk and you end with the flour. I never remember which one is which. So we're just going to start with the flour right now and probably put around 1/3 of it into this butter sugar mixture. Let that start slow. You're just going to add maybe around half of the milk. And there it goes over the table. Going to add another 1/3 of the flour. The rest of the milk. And then the last of the flour, the last 1/3. Okay, so I'm going to scrape this down one time. Make sure everything's incorporated. Sometimes sometimes the butter and sugar sort of stays in the bottom there. The paddle doesn't get all the way down. So I'm going to mix this, but then I'll mix it by hand before we put it into the... So that's going to be great. So let me show you what this looks like. So it's a nice, kind of a thick cake mix batter. You're not going to be able to pour it by any means. So you're going to see it's a nice, thick, beautiful pound cake recipe. So that's going to go into the mold. So right now, I'm going to just take a minute. I'm going to flour the mold, and then I'll bring it back to you and show you what I've done. Okay, so I just took a few minutes to flour the molds, and as you can see, I just took the molds. They were well greased with the melted butter, and just put the flour in, pounded it around, got it all over, so that the cake will come out beautifully. So you just sort of pound it around. The most important thing is, though, you really need to get it into the ears and to the face. And you can just dump out the rest of the flour. And if there's any flour, it's better to have a little too much flour in the mold. If there's any flour on the cake, when it comes out, you can just sort of brush the excess flour off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little tray. It's just a little mini tray. I'm going to sit the lamb on there. It's so much easier to have it. And this is face down. You see it has these two little cast iron legs here. So it holds it up straight. And you are going to just plop this nice pound cake. Nice, thick, rich, but simple pound cake. You don't need a whole lot of fanciness. The fanciness is in the mold itself, and when the lamb comes out, and then with the decoration will be kind of special too. So you're going to fill up the mold, and you can fill it up pretty high, because what you're going to do is this is going to rise into the mold, the back of the lamb that sits on top of it. So have a good bit of cake in here. I'm going to just get a butter knife. I don't have one of those offset spatulas right here, but you're just going to spread it in real nicely. Make sure you get it down into the ears, into the head there. Get it all the way to the sides. It's okay if it comes out a little bit as it's baking. You can just scrape all that off. So we're ready to put this into the oven, but before I do that, I have some toothpicks, and these are just those little bamboo toothpicks that have the little tie on the end, and I'm going to put those right down into the batter, into the ears and into the head, and coming down into the neck. That's just going to make the cake stay together. And the ears should not break off during baking. So I have 2 of these, and this is just nice. You can just use regular toothpicks, but these are just gives it a little bit more solidity. So I'm going to put that one in here, coming down, one here, coming over. It's not going to be, you know, you don't want to overdo it, but you can even put one in down there. Okay, so that's going to keep the neck, the ears, and the head all in place, and you won't have any trouble with anything breaking it off. So I'm going to take this top mold, place it on top there. There, sits down nice. Some of it came out, but we're going to put this is heavy enough. If you have one of those aluminum pans, you might have to tie up with the strings because you don't want it to lift off the back of the mold to lift up as it's baking, and you know, you have run over and things like this. But this is such a heavy cast iron mold that it should be fine. So I just put this into the oven, and everything is going to be in there for a good hour. It's a pound cake. It's inside the mold. You want it to rise up, and you just have to make very, very clear, be very, very careful that it is baked all the way through. So I'm going to give it at least an hour. I have the ability to be able to lift it up a little bit to see if it's done, but it needs to be a nice golden brown. So when it is baked and cooled, I will then show you how to decorate it. Thanks so much. See you in a little bit. Okay, everybody. So here we have the lamb that came out of the oven. Now, I'll be honest with you, is the one that I just made up is still baking in the oven. I made this one yesterday because I wanted to put it into the refrigerator for a little bit. It was actually overnight, so it could be nice and hard, a little solid, and nice and cold before I ice it. Okay, so you can see here is the lamb itself. It came out very nicely. The details are very well done on this one. So it's just a simple pound cake in the shape of a lamb. So I'm going to show you how to ice it and how to decorate it. First, I'm just going to use a simple cream cheese icing. I love cream cheese icings, and so it's going to be 2 sticks of butter, softened butter. You can start that. I'm using a whisk, a beater for this one. So it's 8 ounces of softened butter, 8 ounces of cream cheese. So you put a pinch of salt, a little bit of vanilla, probably around a good tablespoon of vanilla. I'm going to get a spatula to scrape this down. And when this gets nice and soft, I'm going to add 4 cups of powdered sugar. Now I doubled the recipe for this because I also had a little bit of extra pound cake left, so I put that in a little pan. So probably going to have a lot of extra. Okay, so now we're ready to decorate and frost and decorate the cake. I just let that mix up real nicely, nice and fluffy, the cream cheese icing for a couple minutes. That's why I just left the beater running for a while. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure it's kind of secure. So I'm going to have a tray here, and I'm just going to put some icing on the bottom here so that the little lamb sits here nicely and doesn't move. Okay? Then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a knife, and I'm just going to ice the lamb. And this doesn't really matter as far as you can be as particular as you want with the icing, but I'm going to cover this with coconut anyways. So the icing is just sort of the medium for the coconut to go on. So you just slather the cream cheese icing all around. Be careful when you get up around the ears. You just have to be gentle. The face. There's a lot of details that come from the molding that is covered up when you start to ice it. but that's fine. So what I'm going to do is I will finish putting the frosting on, and then I'll come back and I'll show you how to do the finishing touches. So you can see I iced the cake, and you could be as meticulous as you want, and you could make it look like little lamb's wool. You could just dust it if you wanted with just some powdered sugar. You could make any kind of icing you really like, but I'm just going to sprinkle it with some unsweetened shredded coconut. It's not the flakes. And then give it a little character is you take 2 little jelly beans. I have 2 little jelly beans for his eyes, and then a little pink one for his nose. And then I like to put a little grass around it, some Easter grass. And then I always add, as little sign of our Christian faith, some little banner of the Lamb of God, which says Jesus is risen. So just this is on a little skewer. We have it here. You could add some Easter eggs or candy around it, and this would be beautiful as the centerpiece for your Easter dinner on your buffet. And of course, when you cut it, it's going to be delicious. So I just want to say Happy Easter. Here is my lamb cake, Easter lamb cake, and I hope you enjoyed the show. God bless, and once again, Happy Easter.